and Cuba, and it's really critical that we get the right kinds of systems set up. It's going to take a lot more than systems, but systems can sabotage you. And so there are bills in Congress that we want to learn about, and we're going to meet tomorrow with a couple of staff from Representatives Blumenauer's and Schrader's office. And so we want to find out what we need to be saying with them. And then what we all need to be doing in the long haul here to keep on working with our members of Congress. You know, when your constituents keep coming in and talking to you about, then they get some attention on them. So Gail Walker is the director of I forgot what IFCO.
So IFCO is it's a long name. Interreligious Foundation for Community Organization.
Yeah.
IFCO.
Right. Okay. So she can tell us what we're going to be about this evening.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Jack.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stand because I guess that way I can see everybody. So first, thanks, Jack, for pulling this together. As we mentioned, really, pretty much 48 hours. We were able to organize this, and it's good for us, IFCO Pastors for Peace, to be kind of connected with Portland. And I know that in the past there's been a relationship, but it's kind of not been really sort of solid over these last several years, and we'd like to change that. So hopefully this is the beginning of, planting some seeds, reciprocal, to help us kind of look at ways that we might be able to do some work together. But this, so how many of you know are familiar with the Caravan, the Pastors for Peace? Maybe I should ask it the other way. How many of you are not familiar with the?
Not super.
Not super.
A summary would be.
Okay.
I thought everyone in Cuba was atheist.
I'm sorry?
I thought everyone in Cuba was atheist.
See, that's why we're here. We gotta talk to you. We gotta talk to you. Let me try to do this because I don't want to, repeat things, but I do want to make sure that you're brought along in what we're doing. IFCO, Parent Organization and Religious Foundation for Community Organization, has been organizing caravans of friendship and humanitarian aid, but aid as a symbol of really an expression of the people of the U.S.'s position of solidarity with different countries, but also in opposition to our government's policies in different parts of the world. So we began doing these in Nicaragua back in the late 80s. Rick Fellows is one of the people who's been with the Caravan sort of since the beginning as a driver on that early Caravan.
Wow.
That started because we were doing a study delegation in Nicaragua that was attacked by the Nicaraguan Contra. So we know Ronald Reagan was in the White House claiming that the Contra were the good guys and the Sandinistas were the bad guys. And we found out through firsthand experience that that was not the case. The boat we were on, a passenger ferry with this delegation, was attacked by Nicaraguan Contra. And there were two people killed, 29 wounded. And one of the wounded was my father, Lucius Walker, who was the founder, founding director of IFCO.
Yeah.
And he, as a result of this brutal act, conceived of a project called Pastors for Peace. And Pastors for Peace he conceived of as a project that would deliver humanitarian aid and that would be allow people in the U.S. to sort of express opposition to foreign policy, and at that time Nicaragua and in other parts of Central America as the decades have progressed, and ultimately in Cuba. So the way that the Caravan works is that we travel along different routes on vehicles, and we stop in different communities, and we have events like this, whether it's in a park like we did yesterday, or in the center here, in people's homes, in schools, in libraries, wherever there's an audience, to help people understand that there are people in the United States who are opposed to foreign policy that is causing harm and causing difficulty for people in various parts of the world. Amen, right?
Yes.
So that's the Cliff Notes version of the Caravans and how we began doing that. And we began in Nicaragua in 1988, in Cuba in 1992, and this is the 27th, we call these friend shipments. Get it?
Right,
friendship.
yeah.
Got it, okay. Just make sure you're with us here, right?
So it was
US,
1988 was in.
Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the attack happened in August of 1988, and the first caravan made it to Nicaragua on Christmas Eve of that same year. And what we do on these caravans typically is that we would stop and collect humanitarian aid in the form of school supplies and medicines and bicycles and what, you know, different kinds of humanitarian aid, not as a charity, not as a band-aid, but as an expression of our love and solidarity with the country that we're traveling to, and in opposition to our government's policy, and that was causing a blockade, an embargo, as it was referred to in Nicaragua, and a blockade in Cuba. We say a blockade because it's not just unilateral, but pressure put on other countries to also punish Cuba. And that's been going on since the beginning of their revolution, essentially in 1960, 59, 60. This policy's been in place. So we have always felt that was a unjust policy, a wrong way of approaching establishing relations with Cuba, and so the caravans have been a way to express that. We have stopped in different communities, collecting aid, collecting vehicles, collecting people, traveling until we converge in Texas, and then making our way across the border into Mexico, and the aid is put onto a ship that sets sail for Mexico, and we would fly and have maybe a 10-day program there, learning firsthand about Cuban reality. The other important element is that it was always an act of civil disobedience. We didn't apply for a license to go to Cuba. We felt that the government did not have a right to restrict our travel to Cuba, who we saw when we traveled there, what we did while we were there, and that licensing was a way of licensing our solidarity, our love. Cuba is the only country in the world where you can't travel without some kind of a permit. And so we chose to be very clear that we were going to Cuba, that we were taking our humanitarian aid to Cuba, but that we were doing so without applying for or accepting a license from the government to do so. And that's an important element because a lot of people will say now, what's the big deal? You can go to Cuba. And that's morphing us to what has changed and what hasn't. There's been a lot of change, particularly in this last couple of years. December 17, 2014 was a pivotal date in which President Raul Castro of Cuba and Barack Obama of the US talked about